Hi, I'm Hassan, the lecturer here at the Institute of Medical Education, and today we're going to take a look at solutions to Section 3 of ACER's GAMSAT Pink Booklet, Practice Test 3, specifically Unit 22, Questions 61 to 63. In this unit, we're going to take a look at an experiment conducted by a very famous physician, William Withering, using digitalis, which is an extract from foxglove plant, and digitalis itself, it increases the speed and force of contraction of the heart. And in this experiment, William Withering was trying to figure out which method of preparation gave the best results in patients with heart issues and pretty much patients who were treated successfully. Now, here's the trick. So I know a couple of the questions that they do provide in this stimulus. You just have to wrap your head around the fact that they trick you by saying the digitalis extracts can produce side effects, but that's not the reason why he's doing this experiment. So the reason why he's using different methods of preparation for the digitalis is to find out which preparation gives the best result, or which one best treats the patient successfully. So take note, we have our y-axis with the number of patients, the x-axis with the preparation, so it's either unspecified, alcoholic extract, dried leaf, or watery extract. And finally, there's 3 bars in each group. There's side effects group, or side effects bar, total patients, and treated successfully patients. Now, it's important to also note that side effects and being treated successfully or unsuccessfully are not mutually exclusive. So you can have a group who were treated successfully that have side effects, a group that were treated successfully without side effects, a group who weren't treated successfully with side effects, and a group who weren't treated successfully without side effects. The important thing to note is that the total patient number, that isn't going to change. So that's always going to be the same. And now you might notice as well that, there's a lot of different N values or group or total patient numbers between groups. That should stick out. Well, this experiment was conducted between 200 to 300 years ago. It's not as stringent and as let's say the methodology isn't as stringent as it is today. So obviously there's going to be different N values between groups that might confound the results. But back then you didn't have a choice. You had this many patients who had a problem with their heart or whatever it was, and you just gave them the drug or gave them the extract. You didn't get to pick and choose back then. It was just like, okay, you for the description, here, take this drug with this preparation, you do too. That's how it was run 300 years ago. Obviously, these days, I can tell you right now, I've worked in research for about 5 years. It's a lot more stringent than this. Like, you can't get away with many things these days in research. So what I've written here is graphs, and more graphs. Not just this unit, but there's a few units going to come after. You've probably seen a few units beforehand dealing with graphs. So just try to practice how you read graphs, which is why I've got here, make sure to read the data carefully, because if you don't read, you might miss some important things. So read the data carefully. I tried to make a very bad dad joke here, but you get the point. So let's jump into question 61. So the first question, according to the data provided, an advantage of the dried leaf preparation over the watery extract is. So if we take a look at the graph for dried leaf over watery extract. Now we can actually answer this question without even looking at the graph. And the reason why I say that is that firstly, C and D. So C and D talks about fewer patients were needed to show a treatment or side effect success or whatever it was. That's incorrect. As we said in the beginning, the reason why there's fewer patients between the groups wasn't because they stopped after they got a result. It was because back in those days, you just had to treat what was given to you, or you just had a group of people with a condition and you had to treat them. You didn't have the luck that you have today where you've got a lot of people, it's more systematic, and you can pick and choose how many groups you want. So that's why C and D is incorrect. Not necessarily, it's not fewer patients we need to show that, it's just that that's just the number of patients available. Now, the reason why dried leaf preparation is an advantage over watery extract, without even looking at the graph, we know that the whole point of this experiment was to find which preparation allowed for patients to get treated more successfully. So that's what our, let's say, our primary endpoint was. And now let's say in the GAMSAT you're running out of time and you had to pick one. If you had to pick one and you knew that the endpoint of this experiment was to see which extract would provide the most successful treatment, you'd know straight away the answer has to be B. I mean, the answer is B, but that's if you had to do a quick guess and you're in the exam and you're like, I don't have much time. Let's say you do have time in the exam and you want to work through this systematically. Well, think about it this way. It says here that for A says the percentage of patients with side effects was about a third. I mean, yes, you could say that because the percentage, so let's say dried leaf has 5 for side effects, let's say 35 total patients, and we have about 26 treated successfully. So this is dried leaf. So if we say watery extract, we've got, we have here, it's about 17. Over here, it's about 79. And here, it's about 54. So yes, you could say, well, the percentage of patients with side effects was about a third. That is true. It was about a third. But again, remember, what is the endpoint of this experiment? It wasn't the side effects. They throw you off in the stimulus where they say, unfortunately, digitalis extracts can produce side effects. But that's not why we're doing this experiment. We're doing this experiment to find which formulation gives the best formulation for treating the heart problem most efficiently. So that's why, again, A is incorrect, but we can show that B is correct just by using fractions and ratios. So if we take a look at the treated successfully over total patients, so we've got 26 over 35, and on this side we have 54 over 79. You might make the mistake and say, how about we just take a look at the graph, and you can see with dried leaf, the ratio, just by using your eyes, this is a lot, so the gap between here and here is a lot smaller than here and here, which means therefore this was more effective at treating total patients. You might say that, however, it's incorrect to use that for this graph because this graph, you don't have the same amount of total patients. So you're actually comparing apples and oranges because you have to compare, if they had the exact same amount of total patients, you can compare them accurately, but we don't have that. All we have is the difference, the fractions. So what we can do is just to answer it. I mean, in the exam, again, it's however you want to answer it, you find the way that works for you. But let's say 26 on 35 is about 25 on 35. So that's about 5 on 7. And on this side, we've got 54 on 79. It's about 50 on 80. Let's say 50 on 80. So it's about 5 over 8. So fractions, converting from fractions to decimal place, you should be able to do that in an instant. Don't wait until the GAMSAT to learn this because if you do, you've wasted time already. So you should know that 5 over 7 is about 70%. And we also know that 5 over 8 has to be about 60%. So the statement that it's asking will be the percentage of patients treated successfully was greater. That is true. So the answer has to be B. 2 reasons. Yes, A is correct, but it's a correct statement, but that's not the reason why the dried leaf preparation is an advantage over watery extract. The primary endpoint was to see if we can treat patients successfully. Secondary endpoint would probably be side effects. So if you had a background in research, you'd understand this, but just understand this in research, most primary endpoints are trying to cure a disease. It's not necessarily side effects, unless they explicitly state that we're looking for side effects. So if we take a look now at question 62, the question asks, for watery extract, suppose that the side effects only occurred for patients who were treated successfully. So watery extract, so if we go up, take a look, remember, let's just write it here, 17, we've got 79, and we've got over here, treated successfully, was about 54. So it says, side effects only occurred for patients who were treated successfully. How many patients had neither successful treatment nor a side effect? So we can therefore say, okay, all of these patients were treated successfully, which means if we take a look at our total, so 79 is our total, that means in our treated successfully, so TS, we've got 54, including all side effects. So that means whatever the difference is between this and this is going to be our answer for patients that had neither a successful treatment nor a side effect. So we know it can't be this group if you draw a Venn diagram. So patients who are treated successful can't be this group because these are the ones that were treated successful. So we've ruled out 54 people already of the 79. Patients who had a side effect, we know that all the patients who had side effects were treated successfully, so they're in this group. That means the patients who don't have side effects and who weren't treated successfully are going to be in between 79 and the 54. So you just have to subtract them. So it's going to be that, subtract that, and we know therefore there's 25 patients who weren't treated successfully and who did not have side effects. So therefore the answer for 62 has to be B. Now 63, it's kind of similar question, but the wording might trick some students. So it says for the alcoholic extract. So let's just write it out, alcoholic extract. So we've got about 7, 15, 12. Let's just say that. It says, suppose the greatest possible number of patients who were treated successfully had side effects. That just pretty much means if there were, say, 13 people who had side effects, that means only 12 of them would be part of this group. But because there's 7, it means that every single person who had side effects was treated successfully, because it says the greatest possible number of patients who were treated successfully had side effects. Since we have 12, it's going to be 7 because the cutoff is here. So that means 7 had side effects. Now understand that means if 7 people had side effects who were treated successfully, what we're left with is patients who don't have side effects who were not treated successfully. So keep that in mind. We have no more patients who had side effects because we've put them all in a successful pile, which means therefore patients who weren't treated successfully, none of them are going to have side effects because all of the side effects are in this population here. So therefore for the answer 63, it has to be 0. Now remember with these sorts of graphical questions, take a look at the graph properly, understand what the X and Y axis is telling us, the context behind why the graph was designed. In this instance, we're looking for the effectiveness of the formulation for treating the patient successfully. That's the primary endpoint. Secondary endpoint is the side effects. Usually that's how it is for most drug experiments, especially for clinical trials, unless, for example, we're specifically told we want to compare the side effect profile between 2 drugs. Other than that, you just assume they're looking for if this drug is going to work in preventing the heart problem. And make sure, have a look at the graph, have a look at the questions relating to the graph, and read the data carefully. Because if you don't do that, you might miss this and make a mistake. So read carefully. Now, if you're still having problems with this unit or you have any other queries, you can post them in the comment section below or you can contact us directly. We'd love to help. Thanks for your time. Bye now.